There are so many videos about color out there, and many of them can be extremely confusing. You'll see things where people tell you this set of color works and they don't really tell you why, or they showcase it more as this mystery that no one, including you, will ever find out. But I will admit, color in of itself is confusing when you start out. There's this scientific aspect to it, but there's also an intuitive, stylistic way to it when it comes to artistry. And there's also just so much out there when it comes to learning it. Color temperature, color palettes, warms and cools, purple shadows, color wheel, saturation, value, and that's where we separate all of them off to the side and tackle one thing at a time. And today, I wanted to talk about color temperature. When I first learned about color temperature, I was told that there's a warm side of the color wheel and a cool side of the color wheel. Okay, cool, so where's the definitive line? Where exactly is the warm side and where exactly is the cool side? So reds and yellows are warm and blues and grays are cool. Things that make you feel chilly or hot. Okay, so what about purple? Is that warm or cool? Rinse and repeat until I eventually separated it like this, and I felt like this made sense. Until this happened. If you're in the middle of the cools and you want to warm it up, which direction do you go? Is this warm? Well, green is still cold and not warm. And if I go all the way over to yellow, it doesn't really look right. But if I go purple, that looks more red and not really what I want. Well, the answer is actually very simple. When I learned this, everything made sense. Don't try to think of a solid warm versus cool side. There's warmer versus cooler. Let's take this blue. And here's another one. They're both in this cool section of the color wheel, but one is warmer. Why? Because this one has more red. If we continue adding red, it'll eventually step into the violets before losing the blue completely as we enter red. One of the primaries if you're using the red, yellow, blue color wheel. Speaking of the color wheel, let's bring it up real quick because this also helped me. If we're going by the red, yellow, blue color wheel, we have three primaries: red, yellow, and blue. If you mix red and yellow, you get orange. Yellow and blue is green. Red and blue is violet. These are our secondaries. Then, if you mix your secondaries and your primaries, you get your tertiaries. Continue this, and you'll get the fully fleshed out color wheel that you see when you open Krita or Corel Painter or whatever you use. So, the more of a warm color you add to a cool color, the warmer it'll get. If you start adding yellow, a warm color, to blue, it'll go towards the greens, getting progressively warmer and warmer until you get to straight up yellow. If you want to make a warm color cooler, say for instance red, you add blue until it eventually reaches the violets, then more and more until it reaches straight up blue. So instead of thinking of a strict warm or cool side of the color wheel, think warmer and cooler instead. Colors are relative to each other. It's the same thing with values. Is this bright or dark? You simply cannot know until you compare it to a different value swab. This one value is bright when you put it next to a dark value, and dark when you put it next to a light value. The same with colors. This looks warm next to this color, but cool next to an even warmer color. There's one more way you can cool or warm up a color, and that's desaturation. You know those videos where the person's like, oh, look at this orange room, but those jeans look blue, surely it's blue, right? And then they go over to it with a color picker and it's like, whoa, it's actually a desaturated orange, what? But they never really explain why that happens. I've always been annoyed by these type of videos because I wanted to know why, and all they really do is kind of confuse you, which just leads to the continued idea that color theory is too hard. Well, I'll tell you why it happens, because I learned from Marco Bucci. The color wheel starts saturated at the outer wheel, and then as you go in towards the center, it gets more desaturated until you reach this perfect gray. I like to think of this as a door, and when you open it, you see all the colors on the other side. So if you're in a predominantly orange room and you decide to desaturate it, it'll open the door towards the opposite side, which in this case is blue. Ugh, this party sucks. Oh, hey, look at that. A party. Can we come in? I don't think. Okay, so warm colors desaturate cooler because it opens the door to the cool side, while cooler colors desaturate warmer because they open to the warm side. Well, that's kind of a half-truth. When I just desaturated a color, I didn't feel like it inherently got warmer. I feel like it got grayer, and that was it. Then I was watching Marco Bucci's video on color temperature as research for this video, I'll link it in the description, and found out that you don't just desaturate. You'll also have to lean it, very slightly, towards the color you want it to look like. If I desaturated orange and leaned it towards purple, it looked purplish. If I desaturated orange and leaned it towards yellow, it looked greenish. As Marco Bucci talked about in this video, he says how there needs to be a clear path of colors. If you just desaturate it with no lean, your brain doesn't know where it is you want it to go, so it can just look gray. But if you tell your brain, I'm desaturating and going towards blue, it'll pick up on the pattern quickly and complete the path. So back to that one question I had. In what direction do you warm a color? Do you add red or yellow if you want to warm blue? The answer is, it depends on the light. Color is influenced by other colors. If you have a blue ball and it's hit by yellow light, which is most sunlight and house lights, it'll lean towards the yellow. If it's hit by a red light, it'll lean towards red and become a violet. And if it's hit by a cool light, it'll be cooled down, and the shadow, in comparison, will be warmer. It's the same with monochromatic color palettes. This lighter color here has less saturation because I'm adding white, and this darker color has more blue. And since I'm not leaning this white or blue towards any red or yellow, it just loses saturation and looks cooler. I hope this video makes sense and helped you. If you like it, I make other videos like this on my channel where I talk about art and what I've learned. If you want a little bit more on color, I highly recommend Marco Bucci. I've learned so much from him. Tiffanie Mang really likes talking about grays, so I recommend looking at her as well. And Jeremy Vickery does have a more of the science part of color as well. He's also really good. Until next time, I hope you have a great day.